That's the sound of People of the Sun from their self-titled debut album. The Kiwi trio fuses psychedelic and prog rock while drawing from the likes of Pink Floyd, Tool, and Trinity Roots. Here is drummer Tom Scrase to introduce you to the rest of the band and his home studio.
This is my studio at home. So I teach drums privately as well as at schools, and I do a little bit of home recording and a bit of song creation on some other bits of kit around here. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Looks good. All right, nice little setup. Anyway, you got the album coming out in a couple of days. How are you feeling about it all?
Super stoked, super excited. I've been playing music with Joseph for 25, 26 years. Like we've been best mates since high school.
Right?
Uh, but we've never released anything together. We've most of our adult life we've lived in separate cities. I live in Wellington. He's been in Auckland up until recently, and now he lives in New Plymouth. So for us to actually get together and write music was quite a lot of travel from Wellington to Auckland for a number of years.
Yep.
But yeah, this project is fantastic. I really enjoy it. It's very much like the music that we were inspired by listening to
And
growing up.
for folks who haven't heard anything, what music would that be, do you think?
With the stuff that we're writing, we would call it psychedelic rock,
Right?
elements of progressive rock in there. And the stuff that we really enjoyed listening to growing up is things like Pink Floyd, Tool,
Right.
Soundgarden, but also Kiwi bands like Trinity Roots, Little Bushman,
Right.
and there's also a bit of that Led Zeppelin-esque kind of big open, loose 70s grooves, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the band is People of the Sun, and you mentioned Joseph, who's Joseph Anderson, the guitar player, and who is your bass player? Tell me about him.
George Nikolic is originally from Serbia, and
Right.
he grew up in New Zealand as well. He spent some time living in the UK. And George met Joseph performing music up in Auckland, and that's how I got to know George. Fantastic bass player. He does a lot of other different projects in Auckland, and I think yeah, we just gel so well. And the one of the other real benefits out of this group for me is that we all see eye to eye uh, in a way where we're trying to let the music speak as much as possible. So we really gel without trying to, make it an argument where, it's very organic.
Right.
And there's with it, without sounding too pretentious, we try as much to get the ego out of the way. We're trying as much as we can to just have fun letting the music speak and jam together that way. Yeah.
Right. Right. So the album consists of 7 tracks, but most of them are fairly lengthy, except for a couple of the opening track, The Call, which is about a minute and a half, as is 10,000
Yeah.
Things. So with that in mind, tell me how you put this thing together. What kind of discussions did you have? What did you want to get across?
Well, we definitely have some thematic material. So lyrically, it's all tied together. Joseph is the principal lyricist,
Right?
um, but we love that kind of Dark Side of the Moon concept album type thing. We like the way that albums flow from one to another. We didn't have too many extra tracks up our sleeve to record, but we found that these worked really organically together. And again, yeah, there's only 7 tracks, but the shortest song would be, 6.5 minutes or so, and the
Yep.
longest being 11.5 minutes. So it
Yep.
still takes up 45 minutes worth of music.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I see you recorded it and produced it yourself, and then you took it to Lee Preble to mix. So
Mm.
tell me about the sessions. How did you do it? Were you all in the same room together? Were you kind of scattered around? How did it work?
Well, we did. We were fortunate. I lived in Auckland for about 3 years,
Okay.
in within the last sort of 6 or 7 years, and we recorded the drums and bass at the Depot
Okay.
Sound in Devonport, just prior to me moving back to Wellington.
Okay.
So we managed to get the rhythm tracks down together. We had to do very little editing, if any, and we reamped bass after the fact. Joseph then did most of his guitar parts with Tom Broom in Auckland.
Right.
And he also did a number of vocal tracking. I think he did a little bit with Tom, perhaps, but he did a huge amount at home
Right.
with a couple of really good little bits of kit, like a good, I think, SM7 vocal mic and a nice Apollo interface. So we could get, he could take his time with the vocal recordings. And so we basically multi-tracked everything after I'd left Auckland, all the overdubs. We did some horns here at the surgery in Wellington as well. We wanted to get a fanfare kind of thing for the song Last Song, which
Right.
is already out. And then yeah, we all came down for the finishing touches of the mix, but we left Lee to do the mixing himself. You know, we have full faith in his abilities from all of the music we really enjoy listening that he's recorded over the years, like Trinity Roots and
Right.
Bushman and even Black Seeds and things like that too.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I see. I think your first single was, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Lysurgeon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that came together and why that was your first one.
Grip the sun and roll the road to the party again, yeah, yeah. When these calls me for me, and I ache so coldly, yeah. Breathe into this here and now that I'm come upon. When she takes me slowly, and I'm caught lonely.
Joseph had been writing a little bit and jamming with George prior to me joining and moving up to Auckland.
Right.
And so that was the first tune that they'd actually worked on together. And they had quite a lot of it together. And they did try a couple of other drummers, but I know that Joseph and I have a really strong connection. And, you know, he was sort of working on the music and like, yeah, I think we need to get Tom up and give it a go.
Yep.
So I was pretty stoked. Um, and we feel that the journey of that song probably represents what we feel as a band most. Not that it's necessarily the strongest song or anything like that, but it
Right.
kind of told the story that we wanted with a long form song,
Yep.
with the kind of journey where there's not too much repetition. It really just sort of unfolds and kind of guides you all the way from start to finish. Um, Plus, it just felt like a real announcement. I think that, you know, it comes in with a clear kind of feel that we wanted to kind of communicate. Yeah.
Okay. Then you mentioned the last song, which is called The Last Song. Um,
Mm.
tell me how that, because that's out and about as well, I believe. Is that correct?
Smile so tenderly, then slips away back to black.
That particular track is Joseph has written that about his son, um, and the joys and trials and tribulations of supporting his particular needs,
Right.
and you know trying to be the best father that we can. A lot of our lyrical content has to do with that stage of our lives.
Uh-huh.
Um, but again, it has echoes of Beatles in there. You know, I think it's one of the most beautiful guitar solos I've ever heard. Joseph's been an inspiration for me since we started playing together at high school. He's just an incredible player.
Right.
And I think again, structurally and in terms of a song, it's one of the strongest ones on the album. Again, it's too long for most radio play. You know,
Yeah.
we tried shortening it, but
Yeah.
just couldn't find a way to kind of cut anything that we were happy to let go of.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I think again, it created just tells a really, really beautiful story. And there's a good hook at the end that I think, you know, is a great way to leave an album.
Yeah. 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 So, have you done many gigs?
Gigs are a little harder to arrange because we're spread out throughout the
That's what I'm
country.
thinking. Yeah.
But yeah, we've prior to this year, we hadn't done a lot at all. But in January, we got about 3 or 4 shows in. We've also had another 1 or 2 shows consistently in February and March. Um, and now the album tour is sort of in the works, and we're planning
Oh,
to
good.
try and take that on the road.
Right.
Um, we definitely hit the centers that we're all living because that makes it nice and easy.
Yep.
Um, but we also think that we'd love to be able to try and take it a little bit further afield. We have got a gig coming up in Palmerston North around October
Okay.
at Snails, I believe it is. And Wellington has responded pretty well to the couple of gigs we've done here so far. So yeah, we'll definitely be hitting the road October, November-ish.
All right. And what are your shows like? Do you kind of use these songs as jumping off points, or do they change? Are they pretty much what you hear on the record is what's on stage? How does it work?
Uh, we definitely take a little, like I've got a little bit of room for freedom in terms of certain sections of songs where we can be a lot more free. There's a couple of solo sections for guitar as well that are a little bit more open, but we do tend to stick pretty closely to uh, the core of each of the songs. And so there's a couple of other new tunes that we've written that have featured in the live show that are definitely higher energy than some of the other tracks as well. Um, but yeah, we like the shape of the album, and I think for now, that tells a really, really good story live as well. But it's very organic group, and we all come from a jazz background in some essence as well. So we definitely have the capacity to stretch a wee bit, which is great.
Yep. And what kind of people come out to see you?
We've had a pretty good mix. We've been fortunate to share with some really some other fantastic musicians and
Right.
great bands.
Okay.
So we've got some young guys as young as 18 that are kind of getting involved in the psychedelic sort of a scene.
Right.
Specifically here in Wellington, it's been quite cool. But we tend to kind of connect with that sort of middle-aged kind of an audience. I think there's an element of the feel and sound that we've created that a lot of people will relate to grunge and that kind of era as well. Because I mean, we grew up listening to music from the early 90s, and
Right.
that that kind of ethos is definitely still part of our songwriting and our feel. So there, again, there's a lot of people that are definitely in their 40s and 50s that would naturally gravitate to the music we do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And are you thinking in longer terms, or are you just trying to get this record out and get a few shows under your belt? What's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do another BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, and set a few more goals in terms of where we want to get to with the band and with some other projects. But for now, because of the nature of being spread out, uh, getting this album out has been the focal point for a while. And I think with any group, once you've got the first one out, then you let go and you can free yourself up for so much more. I mean, songwriting comes more naturally as well
Right.
after a while because, hey, I've got the mental clarity to be able to do something more. But I mean, I've been fortunate with other bands, originals bands, to do some pretty big gigs and to get quite a bit of good travel, including some international travel.
Right.
So by far and away, the goals are to get some great big festivals,
Right.
work towards, our headline shows around the country. And I've got a few cheeky things that I'd love to be able to do, like opening for Tool or something
Well,
like
see,
that,
I was going to ask you that. Who was the ideal band you would love to open for? But you just answered the question.
Yeah, I think, and short of Pink Floyd kind of, resurrecting and a couple of people waking from the dead. But
That
yeah,
chances are that's not going to happen. But
no,
are you aware of that this Black Sabbath thing that's happening in a couple of weeks with the
it
final
looks
show?
incredible. The show in Hyde Park, I think, or in
It's
the
in
UK.
Birmingham, I think, because that's where they're from.
Of of course, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But supposedly you
But yeah,
mentioned Tool. I think they're part of the lineup. At least they are until somebody isn't.
yeah, they are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that looks like an incredible show. Bill Ward, the drummer for Sabbath, is one of my favorites. I listen to them more so than Led Zepp, actually.
Right.
Personally, I've had
Yeah.
more influence from the Sabbath kind of thing, but same feel, big,
Yeah.
loose, triplety, Phil's, and yeah, I mean, Bill Ward's an absolute beast. Love it.
Hopefully he still is.
Yeah.
None of those guys are getting any younger, and we'll see how long Ozzy can stay standing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting, that's for sure. And I have a feeling the whole day will be pretty wild. So we'll see what else they come
Oh,
up with.
incredible lineup. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. And so, are you due up in Auckland anytime soon? I can't remember.
Uh, we haven't got any gigs particularly booked,
Yep.
but we are making the inquiries around the album release kind of a
Okay.
time frame. We've been the last couple of times we've been up, we've played at Ding Dong Lounge,
Right. Right.
and I have to shout out to the house engineer, sound tech, because every time we've been up there, it's just been fantastic,
Must be
super
loud
easy.
in there. It's not a big room.
No, no, and it is a pretty cramped stage to be fair as well. But it has a vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. And what are you going to do on release day on Friday?
Personally, probably just keep it reasonably mellow. But I think because again, we're totally split, throughout
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll have a catch up, maybe another Zoom call or something like that.
That'll be
And
exciting, man.
I'm doing dry July and extended it into June, so I'm not actually going to have a beer to celebrate, but
All
I can
right.
save that for later.
Yep. Yep.
That's fine by
Absolutely.
me.
There'll be plenty
Yeah,
left afterwards, I'm sure.
totally.
Very very good. Well, thank you for taking time explaining it all to me because, yeah, the sound is great. And I'm looking forward to hearing it in real time in a real room. So that would be nice. Come on up.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. We have put together a track on YouTube that will come out on the day to play the album from start to finish, because one of the challenges with streaming platforms is buffering for the next track. So
Great.
yeah, we've put that together to listen to it how we intended it.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.